West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, Billy, we got the phone lines full.
Yes.
We got the text messages hot.
This is fun.
They like the ladies, Bill. They think you need to take the blinders off. There's a welfare industrial complex. Even people saying, look, I worked for a city where the government came in and said we need to get more people on welfare. We're not going to get the same amount next year. Let's go to Marcus in Aurora. Good morning, Marcus. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Morning, guys. I agree with Jacqueline, Mary, and Karen. In the beginning, I was around Section 8 housing. When I started out, coming out, this goes back some years ago, in the coalition in Colorado. But what they're stating, I got one example. I really got to say this. I saw a father, a son, and a grandson all in the same unit getting the same benefits because they knew the ropes. And I couldn't believe that. Could you imagine? 3 generations. And so that blew me away. And I got 2 brothers that run the system. And unfortunately, I got a daughter that does the same thing. So,
Marcus, we're seeing a lot of people that have family members that are working the system calling in today.
And everyone calls in, and thanks for the call, Marcus. Everyone calls in and says, I saw this person, I know this person. Yet nobody can tell me what percentage are these type of welfare kings and queens. Nobody can point to a study. Nobody can point to any empirical evidence other than I saw this happen. That's not proof.
What do you mean that's not proof?
It's not proof
That's
of it happening all the time.
proof.
No, it's not proof. It's not proof that is a significant portion of the population, nor in the percentages.
Well, Bill, you
we have
could
no
say
information.
that. You could say it's not a significant portion. That's fine, but you can't say it's not proof.
No, it's not. It's not proof of this happening all the time because everyone calls in and says that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Bill, I don't
because
think
they
we've
saw something.
Ever had
Show me
this
the
many
numbers.
people call in saying, "I've got this family member. I got this family member. I know this guy.
Yeah.
I've seen it with my own eyes." That's a pretty strong indicator in my mind. Let's go to Jeff and Golden.
None of that is proof of the fact that this happens all the time. None of it's proof that even more than 20% of the people on these programs. None of
Go
it.
ahead,
None of it's
Jeff
proof.
Golden. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Morning. You know, she brought up one thing that I think you kind of danced over a little bit, and I think other programs have the same deal. As how she said that it originally started for the people, for the soldiers' wives that were killed in Vietnam. You know, and when she said that, you didn't really acknowledge that, and I think.
Can I address that real quick, Jeff? Can I address why? Because she's talking about WIC, and specifically we're focused on SNAP. I didn't want to turn this in to a debate of the origins of all these programs, and I actually concede that some of these programs have expanded beyond their original intent, and we can talk about cutting them back, but doing that on WIC when we started with SNAP, and that's what we're talking about, I didn't want to go and plow that field. That's just the reason, man. It wasn't that I danced over it. It's just that I didn't want to get into a debate about WIC when we're talking about SNAP. But continue, please.
Right. Well, I guess they're related. What jostled my mind is I see other programs. Why do there's so many programs start like that? Like, I mean, FMLA is the one that thought, from my world and experience, I've seen people take advantage of FMLA, extremely. You know what I mean? Once you get that FMLA coverage, then, you're, in my eyes, you're almost one of the, you just, work's pretty much just an optional thing. And FMLA was started for pregnant women that were losing their jobs. And so they put in these programs that have such a great, everybody's on board, right? Yeah, we need to help these women. If you're pregnant, we don't want you fired. So everybody's for it. But then you fast forward 30 years.
But Jeff, let's
it's
pause
not
that just
even,
for a sec.
It doesn't resemble
I
itself.
understand, and I'm not.
You can get FMLA for a stub toe.
I am not going to debate the efficacy or who should be getting FMLA right now because we're starting on a SNAP program. And what I want to bring you back to is let's talk about SNAP. That only about 16.8% of adults between 18 and 49 do not have a disability and have the ability to work. And so that's only 16.8% of the people that are receiving it. The other people are children, elderly, and the disabled. So just based on those numbers, we are not seeing a large vast of people that are scamming the system. And remember, most of them get out of the program within 10 months. And almost all of them are out within 3 years, and there are 30% that can stay on for as long as 5 years. So the idea of this being a lifetime supplement is simply incorrect. That may be different with FMLA, but on SNAP, that's not what we're seeing.
I just think you're hanging too much weight on these statistics, because if you took college course statistics, you know that you can kind of manipulate these things. And then also, I remember talking to you guys about when I tried to get numbers, and the lady touched on this too. I tried to get numbers on the stupid bike path here in Jeffco, and I had a 16 email chain, and I still didn't really get the numbers. They wanted to charge me for the information. Yeah. And yes, it's supposed to be easy to get and everything, but they do make these very hard. So for you to hang all your weight on a study, that study's probably never going to get out there. You know what I mean? Like they're just... People don't have the time or the money to...
Jeff, I understand and I appreciate that, but understand that then the bromide is, and the argument is, well, all the numbers show this, but we are going to disbelieve all the numbers simply because I can't find a study or I can't do anything that proves what I already think is happening. What you're looking for is you're looking for confirmation bias. Because the information that you think already exists isn't out there, you assume something else nefarious has happened. That is just asking for confirmation bias. I am saying, based on the numbers that we have, this is what we see. I am open to other information, but so far, everybody else that has given us anecdotal information hasn't been able to point to single larger statistics to show that I'm wrong. That's it. End of sentence.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to both question the statistics and also listen to their personal experience, Bill. I don't think we've ever had this issue where people are going, I got this family member. I got this family member. I know this guy. Call after call after call.
Yep. And not a single one has said they're on SNAP benefits for life. Not a single
Bill,
one.
They're talking about the larger welfare state, and that is pretty damning in my mind. All right, we've got a lot to get to, including a new Common Sense Institute study on crime rates in Colorado's largest cities. You're not going to want to miss this, though. Now is time, though, for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. It is Hump Day. 26 and sunny out there. Look at the mountains and the foothills. Looks so beautiful this morning. Expecting a high of 60 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, multiple agencies investigating the deadly officer-involved shooting at a Maverick on South Parker Road on Monday. Police were locked out of the store, if you remember, heard shots inside, got in, and shots were exchanged. Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas.
They ultimately did confront the armed subject who was firing at them. There was an exchange of gunfire. Ultimately, the suspect was down.
The unidentified suspect died after being taken to the hospital. A Denver police officer and 2 store employees were wounded by gunshots, but were released from the hospital Tuesday, thankfully. The Fed expected to cut interest rates today, with news that inflation has slowed.
Where the American people are is real simple. We're on day 29 of the stupidest shutdown.
The Schumer shutdown is now 29 days old. Food benefits are set to expire for millions of Americans this weekend. Democrats know they could end it this morning if they wanted to.
This is the Schumer shutdown. And it is the stupidest shutdown because it is a shutdown for literally no reason. The reason the government is shut down is that Chuck Schumer has a political problem. And he has a political problem from right where you're sitting right now, from New York. The last time the Democrats allowed the government to stay open, it was in March of this year, the left-wing base in the Democrat Party went nuts, and he almost lost his job. They almost threw him out of the job as minority leader. This shutdown exists for one purpose, and it's for him to tell the crazy left-wing base, the nuts that were dancing in the No Kings rally, I hate Donald Trump as much as you do.
Colorado has joined a coalition of states that is suing the federal government over the pending suspension of SNAP benefit payments. The coalition of about 24 states sued the U.S. Department of Agriculture on Tuesday. The group wants the agency to use emergency funds to pay SNAP benefits in November. Of course they do. South Korea and the U.S. have reached a trade deal. 47 and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung agreed on a deal this morning that involves a $200 billion cash investment in the U.S., followed by $150 billion in cooperative shipbuilding led by South Korean companies. DJT in South Korea this morning.
But I just wanted to thank you. You rolled out a red carpet that was a very good red carpet, a beautiful red carpet, and giving me the honor of that magnificent piece of art, because it really was a piece of art that you presented to me today. And to be the first president of the United States that got that was really something very special. So I appreciate it very much, and I won't forget the trip.
Yeah, they gave him a gold crown today. He'll meet with Xi from China tomorrow in South Korea. As Hurricane Melissa damage assessments get underway, South Florida-based Global Empowerment Mission and Food for the Poor have disaster kits ready to roll into the most devastated regions.
We don't want to inundate with things that they don't need, so we're starting with monetary donations for Hurricane Melissa, specifically for Jamaica.
CEO Kathleen Cannon says the work with island-based nonprofits will pay to get the items there. They work with that organization. Once they get a clearer picture of the exact needs, they'll open their warehouse to collect the items. All right, last night, plenty of excitement once again in the World Series. Top of the third with Shohei Ohtani on the mound of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 1-on. Jays were down 1-0.
Hit well to deep left center. And this one will go. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. lines one into the seats in left center, and the Blue Jays take the lead.
And the Blue Jays beat the Dodgers 6-2, the final in Game 4 of the series, and it is now even at 2, and back at it tonight at Chavez Ravine in L.A. Avalanche lose to the Devils last night. And the GOAT, MJ, on NBC again last night. What does he think of all this load management garbage in the NBA? Players resting throughout the season?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. You know, I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, you know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get money to buy the ticket.
You really care? Imagine that, caring about putting the fans first.
You remember the flu game when he had the stomach bug and went out and played that game?
Yep.
Dude.
Yep. And he didn't cry about it before the game either. No one even knew really until like the fourth quarter that he had the flu. Yeah, and then last night I see what game was my son was watching now, I can't even remember. But I saw a dude take 7 steps. Okay? You could only take 2 steps. Now they have the Euro step. But I swear, he took 7 steps. He gathered, it was Milwaukee, it was the Bucks. He gathered Giannis, I believe. And he takes another step, then he takes two more steps, and then he takes a Euro step and nothing. The officials just stand there and watch it. If I were at that game and I paid for a ticket, I'd be booing and I want my money back after that garbage. Horrible. Oh, man.
Speaking of Jordan, have you watched Air yet? Have you watched the movie Air yet?
Did I?
With Matt Damon and Ben Affleck about Jordan. Man, I love that movie.
Good. Really
so
good. Yeah, the Nike one?
Yes.
Yeah.
How they came up with the deal and all that stuff?
That was very, very good. I enjoyed that movie. Well done by everyone involved. And it kind of looked like MJ when he went in the office there. 24 in Parker, 23 in Boulder, 26 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Cool, but sunny weather on tap for this Wednesday for Denver in the Front Range. Going to be a nice stretch of autumn weather to take us through the rest of the week, through Halloween and into the weekend. Temperatures will be 50s to near 60 degrees. Clear tonight, low to mid-30s. Mostly sunny and 50s Thursday, near 30 Thursday night. We will have a few more clouds on Halloween. Halloween, we're sideswiped by a front, but it will just produce clouds, keep us cool in the low 50s. But we're going to warm to the 60s, even some 70-degree temperatures possible this weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Do we need to correct the record here, Bill?
Oh, we could. Yeah, Avs won.
Yeah. People keep reminding us.
Blake's just on a different day, and boy, do we feel that. I mean, we've all had those days where we have 3 Tuesdays, and that's okay. Yeah, we've all been there.
All right, our friends over at the Common Sense Institute out with a new report. Property and violent crime rates in Colorado's largest cities. In the past 5 years, Colorado's largest cities have had very different experiences with crime. Colorado's violent and property crime rates rose sharply in the early 2020s, prompting varying responses from leaders at state and local levels. Some have been more successful than others, according to the most recently available Colorado Bureau of Investigation data. Common Sense Institute of Colorado analyzed the violent and property crime trends of Colorado. 10 largest cities, Denver, Colorado Springs, Aurora, Fort Collins, Lakewood, Thornton, Arvada, Westminster, Pueblo, and Centennial. These 10 cities represent just under half of the state's total population, with a combined population of roughly 2.3 million residents. CSI analyzed the average violent and property crime rates per 100,000 people through the first 2 quarters of each year between 2016 and 2025. Pueblo's police data is not current and could not be included in the analysis. Property and violent crime cost the state $27 billion in economic losses in 2022 between the tangible and intangible effects of reported and unreported crime. It is imperative that public leaders continually examine and understand which policies best address crime rates. So what does this report say? Well, joining us now, DJ Summers. DJ serves as Director of Communications and Research Operations for the Common Sense Institute of Colorado. Good morning, DJ. Thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Always delighted to be on the show.
All right. What'd you guys learn?
Well, what we learned is that, like you said, cities in Colorado have had varying experiences over the last 10 and the last 5 years. As you guys know, the peak year for violent crime in the last recent memory in Colorado was 2022. That's when violent crime rates were the highest. Statewide, it's been trending down since then. Now, we wanted to break this down to the granular level. Like you mentioned, Pueblo couldn't be included here. Their data is only current through the first quarter, so I just didn't feel comfortable including that in any comparison. So we stuck with those other cities just to see what the differential was like, to see what kind of responses we're getting. And what we found is that some have had sharper declines in that violent crime rate since 2022. The sharpest decline was the Aurora Police Department's data. Aurora saw a 36% decline between 2022 and this year, in the first half of the year. That was the sharpest decline amongst these large cities. Denver also experienced a decline, 14% decline, which is about average amongst the other cities that we examined. One of the trends that stuck out here was that Aurora's violent crime rate is now below Denver's. Now, historically, at least in recent memory, that hasn't always been the case. Between 2018 and 2022, Aurora's violent crime was rising. Aurora's violent crime rate was really spiking faster than other cities were. And it was the highest among all these large cities in that stretch of years between 2018 and 2022. But since then, since 2022, it's been trending the opposite direction. It started going down, saw the largest decline between then and now. And for the last 3 years, Aurora's violent crime rate has been below Denver's violent crime rate.
I know you guys aren't political, but we do know a certain councilwoman was elected in 2021, and things seem to have gotten better in Aurora since Danielle Durinsky got involved.
And DJ Summers, not asking you to play politics at this point. Don't want a conversation on this, but I just want to remind the Jeff and Bill audience that in the not too recent past, there were two different approaches to immigration and other things.
Correct.
And there was a challenge between Denver and Aurora as far as how things were going to go. Well, this is just another set of statistics that we can add to that conversation. That's it. That's all I wanted to add on there, just to remind everybody of that one. Okay, sorry, DJ, continue.
Well, there's some other really interesting takeaways here. I mean, on the Aurora front, it is interesting to note that their property crime rates have also declined by the second highest rate amongst these cities. Now, property crime was pretty similar to violent crime over the last 5 years. Property crime in Colorado, those rates peaked in 2021 instead of 2022. So we compared the 2021 rate to 2025, and Centennial saw the biggest decline. They had a drop of 49%. Aurora had the second highest decline in property crime rates, 44%. As also Denver declined 35%. Property crime rates definitely been getting better statewide. There's not a single city amongst these large ones that did not see a decline in property crime rates between that peak year and now. And that is generally the same with violent crime rates, with one exception. Colorado Springs saw an increase in violent crime between 2022 and now. It's a 12% increase. Now, what's notable there is that Colorado Springs actually avoided the same spike in violent crime that a lot of the other cities did. It didn't it did rise in 2022, but you didn't see a very massive jump like you did in a lot of other municipalities.
Fascinating data here. Now, one of the critiques we hear, DJ Summers, is how reliable can this data be? Reporting crime, violent crime, I'm not sure what the metric was here. Is it people that report, for instance, being victims, or is it convictions, arrests? What goes into the violent crime rate? Do you know?
There's a lot of different factors that go into, there's a lot of different ways to dice this up. There's incidence rate, there is arrest rate. The crime rate is all of the prosecuted crimes, I believe, from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. So it's prosecuted crimes. Some people use an incidence rate anytime that there is an incidence of violent crime, whether or not it goes prosecuted. So that's a distinction here. I think really the big takeaway is that most of the cities are following pretty much the same kind of pattern. Most have had that big jump in 2022, and they've been experiencing the slowdown in the last 3 years, which is a positive trend in Colorado. Just some cities have been seeing a more marked one.
Great report here from the Common Sense Institute. You can go to their website, commonsenseinstituteus.org, commonsenseinstituteus.org. You guys have done a number of reports. We had Paul Pazin on last week with regards to the correlated, literally one-to-one, that you guys are able to discover with regards to incarceration rates or arrest rates versus violent crime in the communities, basically making the argument that when you lock bad people away, our communities get safer. When you let bad guys out, well, then we end up with more crime in our communities.
You know, Jeff, that's real interesting there. Can I just interrupt for a second? I think that maybe where you're going is, DJ Summers, did you see anything inside the report that showed because they went after this bad level of violent crime, there was, and I hate using this word, a trickle-down effect of seeing other lower level crimes not happen? Or was it possibly the reverse, that because they were going after lower level property crimes that you saw a trickle up effect, that then it created this halo where if you're grabbing the guys that are breaking and entering, they're probably not going to be out there on the streets in order to start stabbing and beating people? Did you see any of that in the numbers?
There is some interesting data that we've got that kind of matches with what we're seeing in this report. There's nothing in the report we just released yesterday that addresses what you're mentioning, but we do see some interesting correlations with previous reporting. Earlier this spring, the Common Sense Institute did a study. It was a difference in difference study, an analysis of what happens when municipalities implement higher penalties. We used Aurora as a case example of that because Aurora had a policy put in place relative to auto theft, and they had stricter penalties for auto theft. This was during the heyday of Colorado's auto theft. We had the nation's highest rate, et cetera. And what we found there was that the policy itself that had stricter penalties for auto theft did influence the decline in auto theft in Aurora, in that county. So we do know that there was a correlation in that regard, in that instance. And that would be reflected in the data here, where we're seeing Aurora had a marked decline in its property crime rates. Now, there is some confounding data there as well. There's a little bit of noise because a lot of these other cities had the same rates of decline. They weren't as high as Aurora's. They didn't decline between that peak year and now by quite as much. But there is some correlation there. In our previous reports, I think it's going to take a little bit more research to really nail down cause and effect.
DJ Summers is being nice. I'll be very honest with cause and effect. When you get conservatives elected who are tough on crime, I think you see declines happen. For instance, Aurora, and what I was just text messaging with a city council person there who just said it's amazing what can happen when you start electing Republicans into these communities that are tough on crime. I think you look at what happened in Colorado Springs, where for the first time ever, you don't have a Republican mayor, and lo and behold, crime has gone up. So I think that's part of the issue as well. But I think what you guys have done a good job pointing to with your research at the Common Sense Institute is that when we put pressure on our elected officials, you actually start to see change. And there's been change that's been taking place since 2022, since these peak times where people are going to our elected officials, whether it's Mayor Mike Johnston or the city council in Aurora or others, get serious on crime. We're not going to take it anymore. We want you to be doing something on this. And it looks like the rates are falling. I mean, that's having an impact. What do you think, DJ?
I think there's a lot in there about certain trends being responsive to previous policy, definitely. And we've covered a lot of this in our research over the last couple of years. There was an increase, for example, statewide in the number of and rate of fentanyl-related overdose deaths in the state of Colorado. That rate had been going up pretty substantially between the late 2020s and now. And the legislature eventually did something that was related to it. Now, we haven't run a correlation analysis on here. What we do have is just a relationship kind of look at these numbers. They did fix something in the legislative session. They had previously lowered the penalties for any possession of drugs under 4 grams. Now, that didn't at the time make a carve-out for fentanyl specifically. Later, the legislature made a carve-out for fentanyl, saying any possession of 1 gram or above would be a felony. And since then, we have seen a decreasing growth in the number of fentanyl overdose deaths. That's had the same kind of impact. And as I mentioned before, the auto theft rates, they did make some changes in the legislature as well with that, where previously the penalty related to auto theft was connected to the vehicle's value, and a lower value vehicle would receive less stringent penalty. And that was changed by the legislature as well, treated all auto theft the same. So we do see certain crimes, and auto theft did go down since then, as well as in Aurora, since the implementation of certain Aurora policies with stricter penalties, and we have seen some responsiveness. So with a few of these items, historically, you do see a change in the direction of the trend following the implementation of policies that put stricter penalties in for certain items.
That's DJ Summers. He's Director of Communications and Research Operations, Common Sense Institute. I'm looking at the trends here, and obviously, as you mentioned, 2022 was the year that it all spiked. Do you look at that as a lagging indicator with regards to policy decisions that were made around defunding the police and COVID or COVID? It seems like 2020 may have been the year that we, as a state, embraced a lot of these policy decisions that were weaker on crime. And by 2022, we saw those major spikes. Do you attribute it to COVID? Do you contribute it to the defund the police movement? Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe something else. What do you think?
You know, honestly, I wish that I had a stronger answer for that, but really all we've got now are before and after correlations. You know, it's difficult to establish a causative relationship between any pair of items. So my policy fellows here, our public safety fellows, Mitch Morrissey, John Kellner, Paul Pazin, they would probably be in a better position to answer that than I would.
I'm also intrigued, too, about how the different counties are impacting crime in other communities. So, for instance, and maybe this is a future research area, but I was talking to the chief of police of Douglas County, and he said that 80% of the people in his prison don't live in Douglas County, didn't come from Douglas County. So they tend to be people from other communities that happen to commit a crime in Dougco, and lo and behold, they're now Darren Weekly's residents permanently in his jail. So I wonder if you've had any indicators of how maybe like Dougco and George Brockler's take tough on crime impacts, for instance, Aurora or Denver, because they ended up being the ones that caught the guy, even though they're going to reduce crime in Denver by being tough on crime in Dougco. Any insight on that?
I mean, you're right in that's going to make a marvelous future study for us if we decide to undertake it, because you're exactly right. Crime is porous. There is not some wall around everyone's residence that keeps them to only committing crimes in their city or county of residence. There's a lot of travel going on. There is a lot of crime being committed by people who reside in one place and go to another to steal their car or to shoplift or whatever. But we haven't done any research on that just yet, and you're making me wish so badly that we have, because I'd like to be able to give a more substantial answer to it. But we do know that crime is porous. That does happen, and that's certainly got to be some kind of factor here. I just can't answer the question as to how strong of a factor.
Well, a great reason to donate to the Common Sense Institute of Colorado. They can continue the great research they're doing. Go to commonsenseinstituteus.org, commonsenseinstituteus.org. I'm a supporter of theirs. It's nonpartisan, just the facts, ma'am, type of research that is guiding the state in a better direction. It's what we've all been looking for. How have decisions regarding crime, punishment, all that stuff made an impact? What do our communities look like? And to the exact last hour's point, Bill, statistics matter, especially when we're making policy decisions. And no one does it better than Common Sense Institute. DJ Summers, Director of Communications and Research Operations. New report out, property and violent crime rates in Colorado's largest cities. Go download it, send it to your elected officials. Ask them to make changes to evaluate what they're doing, what other cities are doing, and let's make all of our communities safer. DJ, thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I had a great time. Thanks a lot.
All right, we'll continue. Join the conversation. I think it's pretty clear when I look at this. I'm like, you would be not smart if you elected anyone else but Danielle Jurinsky in Aurora. That was a lot of double negatives. Let me help you here.
Yeah, help out
you
on this
would
one.
be an idiot if you didn't elect Danielle Jurinsky to continue, because Aurora's doing better. It's doing better than Denver. The crime rate has dropped.
And I think
in Aurora.
What's really important on that is not just the crime rate has dropped, is they were seeing between 2018 and 22 some of the fastest rising crime rate inside of Colorado. And then it took
like
a dramatic
roller coaster.
and it took a dramatic turn in 2022, where now it has declined by 36%, the largest of any of the major metro populations. That is significant. And I do believe that personally, we can point to empirical evidence of changes in how policing and prosecution happened inside of Aurora that has led to that outcome. I think we can draw an absolutely causal relationship between a change in police policy and a change in leadership and direction that led to a decline in crime. I think you absolutely can. And good job on everybody involved. That means the Aurora City Council, Mayor Mike Kaufman, the Aurora Police Department. Appreciate you. Each and every one of you. Thank you.
Only if you want peace, keep it going. I guess if you like crime, you can vote for other people. But they're doing great.
I like that.
They're
I'm the pro-crime candidate.
Pro-crime candidate. Yeah.
Yes. I am Snidely Whiplash, pro-crime. We need to have more of the crimes. I will even give you a cut. Yes, vote Snidely.
Let's talk Gyrie's. Wife and I went recently to Gyrie's, had an absolutely fantastic experience. We went to their location in Parker. They got them all over Denver. Fantastic experience. We got to sit down with their professional designer, and they showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Look, I'm not a home improvement type of guy. I don't just knock down walls. I need help. And they were great to answer all my wife's questions. Then they came out to the house and measured everything, brought samples, laser measured, and I have blinds now that are remote controlled. It's amazing. They don't break like the cheap ones do. They have perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of your home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has the solutions. Everything from window treatments to full room decor, and they have professional design consultants to help you through all of it. And it's not going to break your bank, believe me. Get the same expert advice we got in our home right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today and visit Gyrie's.com to schedule your in-home consultation. GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Gyrie's. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Our friends at the Common Sense Institute of Colorado out with a new report. Property and violent crime rates in Colorado's largest cities. Well, it's very clear you should definitely elect Danielle Jurinsky because Aurora's crime rate is dropping faster than everybody else's. Things are getting better with Republican leadership in Aurora. They're getting worse in Colorado Springs. And Colorado Springs elected its first non-Republican mayor the other day, or the other year, Yemi. Yemi is an independent, quote-unquote independent, but not a Republican. And Mayor Yemi has not led Colorado Springs in a good direction. In fact, they're the only major city to see an increase in violent crime rates.
Yeah. Going with on
12%, by the way.
Good. That's not good.
He's also, I think, under investigation by the FBI around the fake hate crime vandalism of the campaign signs.
Stuff. Did he know his campaign signs were going to be vandalized before it happened? Did he have any communication with the person involved? That's a question.
And then it was a fake hate crime.
Yeah, because it wasn't done by the group they said it was. It was set up. Yeah, so did he know beforehand or did he know afterwards? But it seems like there was some communication at some level between the individuals responsible for that and the candidate.
So looking at this, and I'll make a little video about this later, but Yemi's got to go. If you appreciate Colorado Springs and don't want your violent crime rate going up while everybody else's is going down, time for a little change in leadership. By the way, Fort Collins, you may want some change up there. It's only a 5% drop. At least it's not going up. But Aurora, 36% drop in violent crime. And maybe that's because Darren Weekly and Sheriff Reams and the rest of them are cleaning up the streets on these communities' behalf. That's the next thing that absolutely has to be studied. How tough on crime communities, and Aurora is now one of them, but tough on crime communities makes everybody else safer. As Weekly said, the sheriff of Douglas County, 80% of the people in his jails aren't from Douglas County. Wild. All right, join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Do you think our communities are getting safer? Seems like the violent crime and property crime rates are dropping. You think they're finally getting safer? And do you attribute the problems that we had to those defund the police movements and COVID that took place in 2020? Why did it get so bad? Want to hear directly from you? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, talking a report out at Common Sense Institute. Property and violent crime rates in Colorado's largest cities. They make up half the population of the state of Colorado, and they're making the argument that things are dropping. Do you believe that's the case? Do you think Colorado's getting safer, Bill?
Yeah, I do. I do think it is getting safer. And I do think there are pockets that are and there are pockets that aren't. But yeah, overarching, I do think so. And in part, and I have been critical of this since day one, was the idea of defunding the police. I just think that is a stupid idea. Whoever suggested that to Democrats is an absolute moron. And you deserve all the bad things that happen because of that statement.
They are part of the systemic racist abuse of minority communities.
Yeah,
this was all Marxism. This was oppressor versus oppressed.
No, I disagree.
Tool of the oppressor.
I disagree on that one. But here's the problem I had with the idea of, one, it's being, a larger systemic issue. We can talk about systemically how law enforcement has behaved towards minority communities versus white communities, and there is some difference there. There also is some difference in punishment based on demographics and socioeconomics, and so those are fair critiques, but where the idea of defund the police fell apart is you are painting with a broad brushstroke that every person in law enforcement is part of this larger issue, when really, empirically, it comes down to bad apples. And we've used the bad apple exchange, an example before, and it's based on the orchard. And the easiest idea to talk about why should we weed out the bad apples is because if you were walking along an orchard and the farmer came over to you and handed you a bucket and said, go in there and pick as many apples that you want. And I'm going to tell you, most of those apples are going to be absolutely wonderful. They're going to be better than any of those Honeycrisp apples you get at the store. They're fantastic. Now, there are going to be a couple in there that might give you a little bit of a tummy problem for a little bit. You may not like the taste of the apple, but it's going to be okay and you're going to be fine. Then there's going to be just a few of those apples in there on the trees. You pick those apples, you eat them, they're going to kill you. How many apples do you go into that orchard and do you pick? Or do you look at that orchard and say, I don't trust that orchard? That's the problem, is that empirically it is a few bad apples that create this impression of what law enforcement is or does systemically. And I put this on both the internal law enforcement and external. We do not do a good enough job getting those bad apples out of the system. So then we shouldn't complain when someone looks at the orchard and says, I can't trust those apples.
Bill, the future and likely next mayor of New York City says, we want to defund the police, and also claim that the New York Police Department was a major threat to public safety.
Yeah, and he did that.
Their fault.
And he did that in the past, and so it depends on how far back in the past we want to hang some of these statements on people. That's fine. Yeah, I know, 5 years ago, and lots of other people said things 5 years ago. I'm still waiting for my free wall from our president. So again, lots of people say lots of things, and so I'm willing to see. What I want to see is, how is he going to approach it now? Does he still, and are the policies and programs he's implementing going to reflect that position or something different? I'm guessing he's going to start with flowery language, and it's going to definitely be something different. I'm sure he's going to have something like a crisis control, whatever the hell it is, that is supposed to deal with the mental health aspects of some of the calls the police are. I don't care about what the name is he's going to call it. I want to see what the effective policies, procedures, and who's involved. If they can take some of those basic mental health issues off the plate of law enforcement, meaning law enforcement could be first responder and say, oh, I shouldn't sit here and have to psychologically counsel this person. I got to go over here and deal with these bad guys. Let's call in this group. But I disagree with what I'm hearing sometimes from Mondami, that those people that are the psychologists should be the first responders. No. Law enforcement, the dudes with the badges, first responders, and they should call in someone else that has better expertise. I do not want them having to be the psychological support team.
Counselor.
Yeah,
but
I don't want that.
This report makes it crystal clear what's going to happen in New York. You get these weak on crime city leaders, and crime becomes a problem. You get tough on crime leaders like Danielle Jurinsky, like George Brockler, and the communities get safer. It is crystal clear in this report, and they break it down by cities. You want tough on crime city leadership. Mike Johnston isn't that. Now, city's gotten better, but that could have been because Darren Weakley's locking up the bad guys because they tend to be coming out to Douglas County. I don't know. But I think New York City is going to be a tough place to beat for the next few years.
And for me, it's going to absolutely depend on how he approaches law enforcement. I still say that where the Democrats have failed is on the messaging of the idea of defunding the police, when really the message should have been, and I would even say the Republicans should do this, is have law enforcement out there doing the law enforcement stuff. Take the other stuff off their plate so they can arrest more bad guys. I don't want a law enforcement officer having to fill out paperwork about the domestic violence call that he went on that was nonviolent. I want him out there stopping the speeders, stopping the person that's stealing something out of the cars, someone that is beating someone up down at Union Station. That's where I want my boys and women in blue.
I
That's
get
where I
that,
want 'em.
and that makes you an old school Coloradan, in my opinion.
Makes me
but
weird.
Those progressives out there are willing to excuse any type of criminal behavior. They just needed hugs more as kids.
You're right.
All right, we'll continue
Can't argue that, my
because in
friend.
the next hour, Obamacare premium subsidies is up for debate. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.